Hey folks, welcome to 2 Cents episode 49, or it would have been episode 49 rather, if my computer didn't shit the bed and die on me. As you see, I was recording the episode in my car as my parents were watching Game of Thrones, and I didn't want any unnecessary spoilers, so I actually did do this episode with Steve, despite him not being on the real thing. This one, I guess you could call this 49.5, 49.5, it's technically number 50. But anyway, he and I had a pretty good conversation. He did it from his phone because he too was having troubles, his on the internet. So I'm going to do a really quick run through just because I make these notes anyway. Before we get there, as I said, this is 2 Cents. This is the dollar weekly, or this is the weekly dollar reviews after show where I talk the news, stuff from, TV, tech, movies, video games, just about anything. Before I do that, I just want to point you in the direction of some stuff that we've done recently. We did a dollar views episode for The Do-Over and The Preacher pilot. We also talked about X-Men Apocalypse, The Lobster, Batman Origins, Blackgate on the PS Vita, and what else did I do? The Outcast pilot on Cinemax. But we did some Death Cinema stuff lately, and this is a fun tidbit. I don't know if you ever tried Googling dollar reviews or 2 Cents, but a lot of things come up, and it's not us. But one of Steve's coworkers pointed out, if you Google Debt to Cinema, we are the only thing that appears. Not just the first entry, but the whole first page. So it's pretty cool. Some of my more favorite episodes, Freddy Got Fingered, Rope, Passion of the Christ with David Hunko. Pretty fun. So yeah, give us a Google. You might have to buy another domain just because of that fact. But we got Bullworth coming up next Wednesday. We got The Long Goodbye after that, and then The Red Violin and The Thin Man in the weeks coming after. We've kind of been, I guess, influenced or persuaded by Shane Black's The Nice Guys, which we also have a review for, to go into the murder mystery realm, and we're having mixed results so far, but it's pretty fun, so bear with us. But yeah, this is this show. We're going to start with keeping tabs. I'm going to guess this is going to be about a 30-minute episode. It was over an hour. But that's how life is sometimes. It gives you lemons, and you say, ooh, let me do that tequila, and then suck on it after. Not original, but fuck you. Not in the best mood. But yeah, keeping tabs. First thing here, you probably know this if you follow sports. LA has gotten the next Super Bowl. JK, we're getting it in 2021. By that time, the LA Rams would have fully made their transition to the City of Angels. They're going to have their own new stadium in Inglewood, no longer playing at the LA Coliseum. We had a fun conversation about what the LA Coliseum is like and how I've never been there. Moving on to TV, though, HBO, their Westworld show, which has had a kind of mixed production. They stopped it fully a couple of months ago. Before that, there was like some strike happening about unsimulated sex acts or who knows. But basically my point was trying to tell Steve and just you guys in general to go check out the film that was released, I believe it's in the late 70s. It's directed by Michael Crichton. It's his own screenplay. He wrote the book. It's basically Jurassic Park without dinosaurs. Instead, it's the Wild West. So I can't wait for this TV show, but it's coming out in the fall. So that means you got about 4 more months or so to check it out before it's going to ruin your first impression. So it might be a Death Cinema before then just because I've already seen it before, but it's worth the rewatch. I'd buy that for $1, and I think you guys will too. So yeah, keep your ears posted. I'm sure we'll tell you about that if it becomes a reality. Next, we were talking about new additions to the cast of J.J. Abrams' God Particle, mostly Zhang Ziyi, who's from, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, which we had a Death to Cinema for last week, but also David Oyelowo is being met by Chris O'Dowd and some other internationals. The idea here is that this might be the latest Cloverfield anthology film, but it's going to take place on the International Space Station, so we were making comments about how great it is that they're actually getting international stars. And the final keeping tabs is about The Little Prince. It's the animated film that was supposed to be put out by Paramount, and they said no. It's going to be on Netflix, and they've announced a date. That's August 5th. So starting the 5th of the 8th month of this year, you can see the adaptation that no one wanted besides the French. Steve's actually seen it twice. One time when he was out in the French area, he was in the Swiss Alps, and he's only seen it in French so far, so when I check it out, he promised that he would listen to it in English, because he does like the French dub tracks. But yeah, he already has a Blu-ray, which is funny. Anyone can get a Blu-ray, it's just not from America. But here's some headlines. The biggest one this week is really huge. It has to do with Disney and Netflix. We were just talking about the streamer, so it makes sense. It's a natural transition. I try to do those on the show. But back in 2012, it was not just announced, but Disney signed this deal with Netflix where in the coming years, which happens to be this year, this September, mind you, they would be putting their original films out, or their latest films rather, on the streaming giant. So yeah, this September, all the films from this year that Disney's released, that pay TV window, which originally belonged to Starz, is going to be on Netflix. So stuff like Zootopia, The Jungle Book, Captain America: Civil War, Finding Dory, Rogue One, A Star Wars Story, Doctor Strange, all of these are going to be on Netflix. I don't know how much you frequent the streamer, but they currently have stuff like, I don't know, the Aristocats, Rescue is Down Under, The Great Mouse Detective, their animated classics, Dumbo, stuff of that nature. Some of those are disappearing. They're going to be replaced by this and other stuff that Netflix is working on. So you got a couple more months to stay up to date on that stuff. But we were talking about how exciting this is, especially because, Blu-ray windows are shrinking, pay TV windows are shrinking. People are going to have a real good reason to pay that, extra dollar for Netflix over Amazon. The fact that you're going to be able to get this stuff, that you're going to be able to watch and rewatch something like Zootopia, which was a huge hit internationally, made over $1 billion already, and it's a lot of fun. We have an episode for it out on Dollar Reviews. But yeah, moving from family-friendly stuff to scary things, John Carpenter. Don't mind the water break, you should drink with me. Hey, hashtag drink with me. Yeah, John Carpenter's working on the latest Halloween reboot with Miramax and Blumhouse. He's going to be executive producing the thing. This is the first one he's worked on, I believe, since the third film. In our conversation Steve and I had, he obviously wrote, created, did the sound and music for the first film. He kind of came up with the story for the second, and then he did the music, we believe, for the third, Curse of the Witch. But we had a fun conversation about this, in particular about Jason X and how wacky that is, and just the slasher genre, where it's gone, where it has been, and how weird it is that Halloween has a second reboot now. The Rob Zombie had his 2 films in the 2007 years or something along those years, around there, and now they're doing it again. But my real hope here was that, with the track record that Blumhouse has, that hopefully this could get John Carpenter's name out there again, that he would be able to find money to finance stuff that he's probably been working on a long time, because his name's been brought up a couple times on the show lately, mostly because last week when Guillermo del Toro was tweeting about him, and we had a little fun conversation about his catalog, the stuff that he's done. And it would just be really exciting because he hasn't done anything in almost 10 years now. I think The Ward was the last one with Amber Heard, and that is not a great movie. So yeah, good luck to him at Miramax and Blumhouse. And let's just hope this isn't another Friday the 13th or Nightmare on Elm Street. I mean the reboots. But then we started talking about Shia LaBeouf because he's not in the news for movie reasons, although American Honey, his art house flick from A24, did make the rounds at Cannes this past month, and it had really great results. It was in the running for a couple awards, so I'm sure I'm going to check it out when it hits Amazon Prime in, I don't know, probably like 6 or 7 months from now. Really excited for that film. But anyway, it's him who's the news item here. We've talked about performance art of his on the show. I'm sure you've seen on the internet beyond the Just Do It video and meme. But he did a series of things, the first of which being #AllMyMovies, where he binged his complete filmography in chronological order from a New York movie theater. Then he did #Elevate, where he spent 24 hours in an elevator. And this latest one is called #TakeMeAnywhere, in which he hitchhikes with people by tweeting his GPS coordinates. It's already been reported about. He, I think, got coffee and pancakes with someone out in Utah. But our conversation basically was that he's doing this as a way to kind of make up for all the outlandish stuff that he's done in the last 5 years or so. Basically, after being in Indiana Jones and Transformers, when he had this huge ego, Eagle Eye and Disturbia, being the star of very successful original things and blockbusters, that, he's got in trouble with the law, jaywalking, arrested in a Broadway cabaret show, the car accidents, the abuse, and Steve even pointed out when he plagiarized the Cows comic book, basically, and then plagiarized his responses to apologize to the sky lettering, the "I'm not a celebrity" type thing. And we just hope that not only does Disney bring him back for the next Lucasfilm that they got going, the new Indiana Jones, but also that these little art pastiches, whatever he's doing to get his performance art out there, can kind of calm him down and let the public remember that he isn't a bad person. He's just young. He's really only a couple years older than Steve and I are. So you gotta give him a break, especially when Johnny Depp's out there being accused of being a wife beater. Sorry, these transitions are really hard without a co-host. I don't think my heart goes out to anchors right now and how they're able to go from one thing to other. I know they have a producer and they got someone talking in their ear, but even still, doing a one-man show is not easy, especially not stand-up. We only got 2 headlines left here, and the final one isn't that important. But this one is about Adam Sandler. He's in the news. I mean, obviously the Do-Over just came out this weekend. We have an episode for it, as I said at the beginning of the show. But Happy Madison signed a deal with STX Entertainment, and they're going to make another animated movie there. So he's going to be starring, writing, and producing this thing, and they're hoping for another Hotel Transylvania, not an 8 Crazy Nights. They want success. He already has deals with Netflix, obviously, with the Do-Over and Ridiculous 6. He has 2 more there. But he also has a Sony Pictures deal. He was in Pixels. He was in the Grown Ups and its sequel, Paul Blart. He has a lot of stuff going there, the Hotel Transylvania series. So he's got a lot of, he's got his fingers everywhere across the town. And this was just confusing to me. Steve was trying to make me agree or make me see that this wasn't just for money's sake, but hopefully because STX believes in him as a brand. But I have to, my gut's making me think that they want to tap into whatever he has still. He has a box office draw at least for a first weekend. Netflix numbers are probably just for this weekend, Memorial Day. But, yeah, with his recent history, we talk about it during the Do-Over episode. Not something I'm excited about. I didn't like that second Hotel Transylvania movie. But the final headline is about Starz. The name might ring a bell. They're kind of like HBO and Cinemax and Showtime, except probably the weakest of the bunch. But the news here is that they're shifting the original programming nights from Saturdays to Sundays in July, and this is to better compete with HBO and AMC and Fox and all the other networks in the window for the big weekend. Game of Thrones, Walking Dead, Simpsons, most major shows are shown on Sundays, and up until now, it's been kind of weird that Starz has been doing it on Saturdays. It kind of made them seem like the second fiddle. But with Powers and Black Sails and Outlander and all the stuff that they've been putting out recently, Spartacus, they're trying to get into that main conversation. But I was hesitant here because it doesn't make sense. There's already enough Sunday night stuff that they're going from being that weirdo on Saturdays with the pretty good stuff to competing with the AAA stuff on the real networks. If their quality isn't up to par, they're going to struggle. It's going to make them look worse. There's only so many channels you can record at once on a DVR. But they've been forward thinking for a while here. On Amazon you can get their stuff, I think on Hulu or maybe that's Showtime. But the fact is, they put out an app, you can stream it, you can download the episodes, and they also did the binge model for a couple of things. So they're gambling with what's possible as being a cabler in the cut the cord era. Moving to tech, the news here is mostly video game related. The first of which is Microsoft. They have some rumors going around, or not them in particular, but rumors pertaining them and their video game division. It looks like Xbox is going to have 3 consoles shown off at E3 in the coming weeks, and they kind of mirror what's going on at Sony. So the first of which is a slimmer model. It might be coming out this holiday season. It's rumored to have more advanced specs, a fast processor, kind of what, like I said, Sony's doing with the PS4 Neo, if that is a thing. It's also called the 4.5, the 4K. The idea here is that it's a better GPU, faster processor. It's going to let you use VR more fluidly, things like that. And just to kind of eliminate the windows that console gaming has been in since its inception, try to eliminate the 5 to 7 year gap and make it closer to a 2 to 3. It makes sense. That's how tablets work. That's how cell phones work. Even computers to an extent. Every time there's a better chipset, you can get a new computer. And so it kind of makes sense that console would be that way too. But the second rumor here, besides the slim model, is a 4K version. It's going to have 4K output, a better GPU, and it's going to work better with VR, much in the same way that the Neo does. And this VR is going to be for Oculus. They already have a relationship with them in regards to every Oculus Rift headset coming with the Xbox One controller. But it's all speculation. But this final one seems like the most true of all of them, and it is that Xbox is working on a streaming stick, which will allow you to stream Xbox gameplay from your house to another TV, in addition to also letting you watch Netflix and YouTube, any apps that are available on the Windows 10 store. This one seems real because PlayStation already has something similar. It's called the Sony PlayStation TV, and it's an actual box. You can play PS Vita games on it. You sadly can't do Netflix still, even though it's been out for 2 years. But it's the same thing. You can do PS4 gameplay on that in any room. You can do PlayStation Now streaming, and it's a way to let you still play your games without making you buy another system in another room. So I think that one's true, but they all could be. Sony's could be too, and we're going to find out in 2 weeks. The next one is way cooler. It's more in touch with the things that we talk about normally on the show, especially in this tech section, and it's VR related. HP, MSI, and Zotac are all making PCs in backpack form functionality, and the idea here is that it's going to untether you from the way VR currently works. You're not going to have a cord trying to trip you. You're not going to have so much range. You're going to literally be able to do anything. So this is really enticing for something like HTC Vive, less so for Oculus VR since they don't have motion tracking yet, really. And I can say that truly because I've actually done an Oculus demo. I doubt this review is going to be as good as the first one I did on air, but basically it was only a step above Google Cardboard and just about par with Samsung Gear VR. Yeah, I tried to go 2 weeks back. I couldn't do it. I went this past week. I went to a Best Buy. You can go online. It's, live.oculus.com, and you can find one in your area. You can sign up. You can schedule an appointment. Steve says that he can't do it for like the whole week. But it was kind of disappointing, mostly for the screen door effect that was present. Very obvious. I mean, the more you're in the experience, the more immersed you are, the less you're looking for it. But just putting the headset on, which I couldn't do myself, the rep actually had to help me out with like these 3 different setups. She had me hold the visor while she did it herself. It didn't seem like something that's that easy to do yourself, which is the opposite of everything I've seen for the PlayStation VR. It kind of made me happy that that's the route I went. But then again, I am a not just a Sony fanboy, but also a PlayStation fanboy. So it would make sense that that's the headset that I would get, and so are a lot of people. A 40 million install base is huge. But yeah, it wasn't the most comfortable thing. It was made out of plastic and foam, and I did get my own visor, so there's no grime in my face. But it seemed a little front heavy. The movements, I could tell I was wearing something. It wasn't too much more luxurious than the Google Cardboard VR. The obvious point here being is that one's made out of cardboard, and this was a fully, assembly line, assembled, full product for consumers. But it wasn't that much better. The field of view wasn't amazing. The graphics weren't great. And the real disappointment here wasn't that it wasn't what I thought it was going to be, but more so I didn't get any live, actual realistic stuff presented for me. There wasn't any VR camera recordings, no Facebook Live events. It was strictly video games and CG, and some of it was fun. There's one where I was hanging out with like some forest animals at a campfire, a scary one where a T-Rex was coming down a corridor after me, and like he went over me, and the sense of size was really there. And there was a fun one where you could like duck down into a little village and look inside these little tiny windows and see everything that was going on. That was pretty cute. And there's also The Climb, which is a real game made by Crytek, the people that do Crysis, that whole series, and other people. And the engine was beautiful, but the game, The Climb, was pretty clumsy. I mean, the reviews I've read for it kind of pointed me in that direction. I was kind of disappointed with that. That was the one that I got. But the idea here is that you are a rock climber, and you're trying to, go on your routes and explore and have a good time on this island and stuff. The concept wasn't what was troubling. It was more so the gameplay. I was using, the Oculus Rift headset with the Xbox One controller, and it just doesn't seem right. The fact that you're using your hands in a VR experience, that you're looking around, that's in 3D, that you're supposed to be there, and yet your hands are stuck on the stationary device, using these triggers to control hands, and you have to look over surfaces and around and ducking and using your vision to put where your hands are going to be, but your hands aren't actually moving. So I can't believe that they would even make a game like this for a system, or not a system, but a experience on a headset that doesn't have motion controls yet. It seemed like I was in the Twilight Zone. Like, why would I have this real special headset on my face, and yet I have to wait months to really use the real interactions. PlayStation's going to do it from day one. HTC's been doing it since day one. It's like, why would Facebook even release something like this? And they don't even have a date on the thing. The rep just told me Christmas. But whatever. I mean, if you haven't tried VR at all, definitely go to a Best Buy, check it out, or go to a GameStop if they have the HTC Vive in your area. PlayStation VR is going to be at GameStops also in the near future. I think it's going to be early to mid-June. They're going to have demos at various stores across the country. So it's really in your power to really try VR now. We're at that point. It's ready for AAA consumers, even if it wasn't the best thing. And my real gripe here, like I said, was the screen door effect. The pixels were very obvious, and I really hope the RGB pixels, the sub-pixels on the PlayStation VR, make it a much more enjoyable experience, because I hate to spend $500 on something that isn't that great. But that's where the show ended, actually. It kind of stopped. We recorded 55 minutes, and it was just 20. It's scary that just me is only half the time. But some of the other interesting things on the show, even though it's also Rand's right here, EA, the video game Mirror's Edge, which is getting a reboot next week, is being adapted for TV. I don't know if that's going to work, but whatever. It seemed like a fun news item. Also, Garfield, he's getting another movie. This one's going to be all CGI, so don't worry about Bill Murray kind of messing it up in the live-action stuff with Jason Lee. Amazon's Comixology is doing a subscription service. And then we're talking about two movies, but we didn't get there, like I said. And that is the John Francis Daley, Jonathan Goldman directed Game Night. If you don't know the names, these are the two guys that did that really god-awful Vacation reboot. And they also are writing the Spider-Man Homecoming film for Sony. But the idea here is that it's about a group of adults that do their weekly game night, but someone gets murdered. Jason Bateman is producing. He's probably going to be in it. It makes sense because the duo also wrote Horrible Bosses, which he was a star in. So something to keep your ear for, or keep your eyes on. And then the final thing that was going to be on the show is that The Rock is in a new movie called Skyscraper. It's set up at Legendary. It's going to be directed by the same guy that did Central Intelligence. So that's coming out next month. And he also directed We're the Millers and Dodgeball. So he's been mostly in comedy, but this new one is kind of being called The Die Hard of China. Like I said, it is set up at Legendary, so it makes sense that the Chinese studio would be making a movie about their country, or at least taking place in it. But yeah, Skyscraper is going to be him in a skyscraper, and I'm guessing battling terrorists and stuff. But yeah, it was in the middle of a bidding war. It sounds like it might be good. And The Rock does not sleep, literally. If you follow him on Instagram, you already know how crazy his life is and how much he does in the day with Fast 8 and this and God knows what else, Baywatch. He never sleeps, it seems like. He wakes up at like 6 a.m. every day to work out. But that's the show. The other things that I thought were pretty interesting this week, Max Landis got a Snapchat, Up to My Knees 1986. Really fun. Or is it 84? I can double check. I don't care. Follow him on Twitter, Up to My Knees. You can see. But he has some really fun stuff. Among which is just him on the set of Dirk Gently. He's, the show that he's showrunning for BBC America. And all the people in the background, some dogs and some cars. Pretty weird getting to know his personality like that. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe he unveils some more stuff because he had some really great on-set things. But that's the show. This was 2 Cents. You can find us on YouTube, SoundCloud, TuneIn, Stitcher, iTunes, Google Play Music. That's about everything. I didn't mess up saying it. We're also at dollarreviews.net where you can see everything. Twitter and Facebook at Dollar Reviews. I'm Brian Gillis. That's at BRGYONG. I messed my own name up. BRYONGILLIS. I'm also on Letterboxd at the same name. It's my film diary. Thanks for listening. This one's been different. It's kind of like the end of last week. This is not going to be a thing, even though Steve isn't going to be here next week. I'm going to get some real hosts. Hopefully this is the last time the show messes up, but that's technology for you. That's the internet. I hope it's been a good one. Hope it's been a pleasure. Listen to us again and, keep the change. Peace.